Good afternoon, Gail Himrod, and welcome to our sister story and a conversation we're going to enjoy with you to hear about your life in 30 minutes. So thank you for your willingness to participate in this congregation project. So one thing we like to begin with is to find out where you began, your upbringing, your family, your siblings, where you went to school, important things that happened and people that were significant in your early life. So perhaps if you could begin where you began, which was where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Wheeling, West Virginia.
That was it, yeah.
And my parents were from there. But this was during the war. And when I was about 4 years old, my dad got a job in Columbus, Ohio. So we moved to Columbus, Ohio. And I was in first and second grade there. It was a Catholic school. I have heard that the parish has been demolished since, but then my dad got fired from there. He worked with airplane equipment. So you can figure at the end of the war, they weren't needing so many. So we moved then to Middletown, Ohio.
Okay.
And we were only there a few months, and again, he got laid off. And so I had relatives who lived in Van Wert, Ohio, and so we moved there. I think you want to know about my family.
Your family, your siblings.
A younger sister who was 2.5 years younger than I am. And then we had a brother who actually was born in Columbus, but he died in Middletown. He had a rare childhood disease, and
I'm
so
sorry.
there were just my sister and me.
How old were you at that time?
I was 8.
Wow, that's old enough to know what's going on.
Yes, we did know. And our time in
How was that handled for all of you, you two brother, your other sister and yourself?
I remember it being a sad time,
Right.
and my paternal grandmother died just the year before my brother. So I was acquainted with death early.
Okay.
And from there, though, we stayed in Van Wert. And so my growing up years were pretty much right there in that town.
So it was just you and your sister then, and your mom
We
and
lived,
dad?
yeah.
Okay.
We lived in a few different houses. We moved a couple times, and Van Wert is where I lived when I was entering the convent.
Where did you go to school, grade school and high school?
Well, we went to public school. There was no
Okay.
Catholic school, and so we went to public school. The year that I was a sophomore, our pastor sent my friend and me to a Catholic school in the next town, Delphus, Ohio. Van Wert was a very Protestant town.
Okay.
Delphus, Ohio was very Catholic.
Okay.
And Carol and I, my friend and I, had studied music with the sisters, and during the summer we were organists for the parish. And he wanted to thank us for that, so he paid for our tuition.
Interesting.
Which was a mighty $50.
Correct, in those days. But that was very challenging in those days, too.
We had
Yeah.
Notre Dame sisters there, and when they heard that I was going to Adrian, they were not too happy, but that's okay.
So how did you hear about Adrian?
Because we had 3 sisters in our parish, and they taught CCD, and
Do you remember who they
yes.
were?
Yes, we had Sister Catherine Genevieve,
Okay.
Margaret Aloysius, who was Eileen Myers,
Oh, okay.
and then we had Sister Mary Luke Kinstall,
Okay.
and that's the extent of my...
So they were the ones that influenced you?
Yes, and we had, because we had no Catholic school, we had CCD.
Mm-hmm.
Grades 1 and 4 went for an hour on Monday. Grades 5 to 8 went for an hour on Tuesday, and everybody went for 2 hours on Saturday afternoon.
Oh,
This was really challenging because anything for kids was on Saturday
Saturday,
afternoon, and we could never go because we had to go to CCD. During my sophomore year, sometimes if one of the sisters was sick, I taught catechism. I would meet with the youngsters. So,
you had enough hours of catechism that you would know it.
well, when we went to the Catholic school in Delphus, we were not behind anybody. We were right up there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As far as knowing things are concerned. Also, my brother was born when I was in 8th grade, and so that was...
This is a second brother.
Yes,
Okay.
second brother,
Okay.
who is still living.
Okay. That's what I thought, because you were going to try to go see your brother, and I thought, you guy, how can you? Okay. Okay.
So, and then I went to Adrian, and
And you were influenced by those
three
the
sisters.
3 sisters there.
and
All right. Now, where
Adrian.
does your music come in?
because I always wanted to play the piano, and first I wanted to play the accordion,
Oh my.
and I used to make paper accordions and sing. and
Very creative, Gail.
and my dad said, "No accordion, piano." So I practiced on the dining room table and for a while, and would prop the music book up, and I would sing. I would play the fingers, but I would sing. And
Because you could read notes.
then after a few months of this, and my parents could see that I was, serious about it, they bought a piano for $50.
Again, that was expensive back then. Yes,
It was.
Yes.
And it wasn't a bad piano, as I recall.
Uh-huh.
Then, where were we? Then we left Adrian. I came to Adrian. And
You came to Adrian, and you had high school.
I had freshman and sophomore years of high school.
Where?
Well, the freshman year was at Van Wert High
Van Wert,
School.
right. So,
And then the sophomore year was at St. John's High School in
Okay.
Delphus.
and then you decided to go to the academy.
Well, I didn't. The community wanted to make sure that we had our high school, so we had classes that were equivalent of what you would have in high school, but it was listed as St. Joseph's Academy.
So you didn't go to the academy, but you got the rest of your high school where?
with those classes.
Okay. And where were
We didn't go to another building or
Okay.
anything like that. We met in a room, and one of the sisters would teach us whatever the course needed to be.
Okay. So then when did you go to Adrian?
Well, that was in Adrian in 1954, in June.
In June. That's when you entered?
Yes.
June 54. And then you had your formation. How was that with your family, with your sister, with your brother, with your parents?
It was fine. They were close enough that they could come for visiting Sundays, and that, was not ideal as far as they were concerned, but
But that was not a big issue.
but it was not a big issue.
Yeah.
Yes, they were very happy to be able to come, and
So then you had your formation, and then a couple years here in Adrian for formation, and then you went on for your ministerial life to begin the mission.
yes.
And are there a couple, we can't go through all of them that you've been, and we'll do the last one, the last almost 50 years, we'll talk at the end. But where were some highlights in those other ministries? Do you have a couple that?
Well, first, of course, your first assignment was to St. Celestine's in Elmwood
That's right.
Park. And we,
What'd you teach there?
I taught plain music courses, like piano lessons.
Yeah.
And I remember it being a third floor, partially finished third floor. I mean, it was finished, but it was not the same dimensions as the second floor. But I was there for 5 years, and then came into Adrian for final profession, and went back on New Year's Eve, and was called by Sister Bertha. My superior was called by Sister Bertha, and I was changed. And at the time, I was teaching 7th and 8th grade, and so my superior was Sister Anne Lorraine Horback, who was very good to me.
Okay.
Yes, she was. She was very, very good for me as a person and to me. But she said, Sister Robert Miriam is teaching 8th grade. The sister you're sending is just made profession. And Sister Bertha said, well, she's the same height as Sister Robert Miriam.
You are kidding. I never heard a story like that before. She's the same height, but she
is coming to teach. So
what'd they do with you?
I was sent then to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, to Newberry.
Wow.
And there were 2 changes out of 3 sisters.
Yeah.
This was in the middle of the year, in January. So then there was another change in June of that year, and the superior and the other sister with me were both changed, and so we had, 2 new people again.
In this community of 3.
Of 3. And the superior was Lucian Marie Dussault.
Yes, I knew who she was.
And she would say, what happens here? And I would say, I don't know. I wasn't here at that time.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And then a few months later, she would say, "What happens here?" And I said, "I don't remember." And she'd say, "What good are you? Either you weren't here or you don't remember." She would make a joke of it.
I was going to say she
But
was funny.
yes,
Yeah.
she was.
She was delightful. Yeah.
She was.
Uh-huh. So that was a challenge, as we look at some
That was-
places that were a challenge.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
taught piano lessons on the side there as well. And then the next change came to Homewood, to St. Joseph's. And that was quite an experience of change because we went from 3 sisters in Newberry to, I think it was like 17 at Homewood.
So as we look at your place where you are right now, which is in Providence, Rhode Island, how did you get, and you've been there a significant amount of time, how did you make the decision to go there? Was that back in the time when we could decide where we wanted to go?
It was. A couple of things were happening at that time as far as the community was concerned, but I had my provincial Sister Rita Marie. And as I finished my my degree, she said, my bachelor degree, she said, "Sister, I need to send you to graduate school. So where would you like to go?"
That's different.
Well, this was a real change, you
You're
know.
not kidding.
So I gave her 3 places, and she sent me to the University of Michigan. So I had summers there to finish my master degree
In music.
in music.
Okay.
And it was principally music history. But as I was getting close to the end of it, I needed more credits than you could attain during a summer. And so I was given the fall semester to finish the degree. And then in the spring, I was sent to Washington, D.C. to study theology at Catholic University because at the time I had been teaching theology to the high school students and at Elgin and didn't have any updating. So when I went to Washington, I went with a couple of our sisters over to the House of Studies for liturgy and to use the library, and met on one of the feast days a priest from Providence College, and I was playing the Mass that day, and so he talked to me after and wanted to know about my background, and found out that I had just finished my master's at Michigan and so on. And so he said, "Well, we are just starting a music degree program at Providence College. And I will keep you apprised of any developments, but we are hoping to be able to hire a new person, and I will keep you informed." And that fall, I was back at Elgin at St. Ed's, where I had been before I took the semester off, and we had a phone call during dinner, and it was this priest telling me that they had permission to hire another faculty member. Please send in my resume, and it developed from there.
So that's how you got there. And that was what year?
That was in the fall of 1973. I went
Okay.
there in spring, in fall of '74.
So here we are in 2023. And Gail Himrod is
Yes.
still there. You could write a story about that. As you
Yes.
as you look at your ministry there, that's been very significant in your time there. What is it that has kept you engaged there as fully as you have been? The people, the temperature, the what is it?
It's one, the Dominican atmosphere,
Okay.
which was very important,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a familial
Yeah.
surrounding, and I was useful. I was needed.
Good.
My talents were being used.
And what talent was used the most that gave you the most passion about what you were all about as we look at the missions that we've been involved in?
I think it was just seeing something develop,
Good. Uh-huh.
and that was very important.
Mm-hmm. And you had a good
Yes.
support system there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You don't
I
teach
did.
at Providence any longer. You just
I don't.
no. Okay.
No, but I taught courses in music history,
Okay.
and that's where my training was.
Yeah.
And I was chair for several years,
Mm-hmm.
and that occupied a certain amount of.
So what do you
energy.
like right now that you're involved in? What gives you joy to get up in the morning because you get to go do such and such? And I hope you've pulled back on some of your
I have.
good.
I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
What gives me joy is just being able to get up in the morning.
That's good.
Just
That's
for
true.
One, for one thing.
And be able to get out
But,
of bed and walk to wherever you have to go. That's
But I don't have to keep to a specific schedule. And I am still church organist, so that helps me to utilize my talents. I also make up the music programs, for the parish,
good.
and
Good. That's a gift for a parish. Yeah.
work with the cantor. And
What do you do for fun? You're out of church, you're out of the classroom. What do you do for fun?
I have season tickets for the Rhode Island Philharmonic, which is one of the best small orchestras in the country. I have tickets to Trinity Repertory Theater. I go with friends for eat out,
That's good.
or we'll say, well, let's get together. Okay, you bring this, you bring
Good,
that,
good.
and
So you do still have a support
oh
system
yes,
there.
oh yes.
Yeah. Well, I know this isn't it's sometime down the road, but we have a nice Adrian symphony here in Adrian. It'll never compare, but that's the gift that we had, and people do like it. Yeah, yeah. Is there anything about you that we'd be surprised? That oh my, do you know Gail? Da 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 da. Did you ever hear what she does? Da da da. Like you went out in an airplane and jumped from the airplane.
Yeah, right. I tried to think about that, but I couldn't really come up with anything except that one, I was about to have major surgery, and so a couple of my priest friends at the college said, well, we should have a mass of blessing for you.
Oh.
And so, we had this, and a couple of my friends came, and then we all went out to dinner afterwards to the spaghetti warehouse, and, I kind of shocked the surgeon the next morning by telling him that how late we had been out carousing the night before and so on, but no, I don't think there's anything too much that I would say is
What's the most daring thing you've done? And then I'll stop asking you questions.
Oh, most daring thing.
I don't even know if I'd be able to answer that. Go on.
No.
That just popped in my head.
Did. All
Uh-huh.
right. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't come up with anything.
That's okay. Listen, one thing. Is there anything that you wished I had asked you but I didn't? And now you regret that I didn't ask you?
Oh.
You don't, it might,
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I don't think of anything.
and how did you,
Right now I'm
how did,
sorry.
how did you enjoy this experience? It's been long in
It's
coming.
really,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, well, you certainly drag the truth out of a person, you know.
Don't say it like that. I'm going to have him cut that out. No, I'm teasing. Well, I could have come to Rhode Island. That was foolish. Why didn't I do that? Well, anyway, I didn't have it in my budget because I don't have a budget. Well, Gail, thank you so much. Just being in our mission group for these last couple of years has even helped me to get to know you better. All your coming in, you've been very faithful to come into your mission group meetings even before you were in our group. You just came into Weber a lot, and I think that's how we got acquainted. But you've always been a delight and a breath of fresh air, so thank you so much. Oh, one question was, how did you get your name, Robert Miriam?
My dad's name was Robert.
Okay,
My mother's name was Harriet, and that
didn't go.
wasn't exactly a good combination.
Yeah.
And so I sat down, this was before I entered, I sat down one night with the Bible, and in the back of the Bible there were a whole list of names. And I wanted some form of Mary, and that's how I found the name Miriam.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so
okay.
when I entered and had a choice of names, I chose Robert Miriam.
Nice. It's a nice name. Oh, very good. Very good. Well, thank you so much, and for all that you're doing there at the parish in Providence. And I'm sure you're a delight to people, and they feel secure. Oh, she's still here, and we like what she's doing. It is, because it's a loss when you use the musician, and the people there enjoy you so much. So thank you ever so much for saying yes.